Hey everyone, it's Monica, and today I am so excited because I am going to be talking about the books that I am planning on reading in the upcoming future, mostly in April, my April TBR, if you will. I've recently really liked theming my TBRs because I think it just sort of gives some direction to what I'm reading and it enables me to just I don't know, get a lot of thoughts on one specific subject in sort of a concentrated amount of time. So I've been really enjoying doing these themed TBRs. So this month I've decided to focus in on feminism. I've been really inspired by the times of movement and so many of the feminist focused books that have been being published recently, especially in YA. And so I just wanted to sort of dedicate this month to reading a lot of these books and just hoping that they prompt a lot of really interesting discussion, possibly on this channel and also in my real life. The first book that I want to talk about that I am so excited to read is one that I recently read a little bit of in my most recent Try a Chapter video, where I tried reading a variety of a booktuber's recent favorite books, and that is Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. And I read the first chapter of this one and really loved it. Love is a weird way to phrase it though, isn't it? This follows two girls. The one is a twin and she loves her brother and they just have this really deep connection and bond. Her brother ends up being accused of rape by her best friend. I just feel like it's a really important topic that has not really been broached yet, at least not that I've read in fiction, and I think that it's one that is so incredibly complicated and difficult. You know, if you love someone who does something monstrous, what does that mean? And I'm really intrigued to see how it is handled in this book. I read the first chapter and it the first chapter alone is it's a harmless first chapter, nothing really happens, but knowing what you know going into it the entire time is just very uncomfortable. So I have a feeling this is going to be a very uncomfortable read for me the entire time, but I also think it's going to be very thought-provoking, and I'm really excited to be able to just talk about it on my channel. The next book that I want to pick up is Feminist Fight Club, and this one I have downloaded as an audiobook, and I'm really excited for this one. It's basically about feminism and sexism in the workplace and basically different ways that women combat micro and macro aggressions within the workplace when it comes to sexism. I'm very intrigued for this one. It's supposed to be kind of a lean in, but for a more BuzzFeed kind of audience. So I'm really intrigued what that means exactly. This one I actually hadn't heard of until it got recommended to me in the Feminism AF Amino. And if you haven't heard of Amino Apps, they're actually sponsoring this video, which I think is really cool that this company is excited about their feminism community and want to help get the word out for it. If you're not familiar with Amino, it's an app that has a ton of different communities on it for pretty much every interest under the sun. There's a books one, there's a studying one, and a learning Korean one that I've been in quite a bit. The feminism one is a locked community, so you have to basically be invited to be let in. I do have a link in the description box in case you are also interested in this community and you want to check it out for yourself. But anyways, I made this post on there that was my favorite feminist books that I've read, or ones that just really broadened my mind as a reader when it comes to feminism, especially intersectional feminism. And I got some really great feedback on that, which was just very cool. And in the comments of that, someone recommended that I pick up Feminist Fight Club. So I'm really excited to pick this book up. It sounds right up my alley. I do booktube is not my job. I have a full-time job and it is in business. And I'm really lucky that my workplace is so forward thinking and feminist and all of that. I've adored my time in business, but I also know that that is not the rule, and it's not the case for everybody. And I think that as a woman who wants to continue working in the tech industry, I think it's really important to read books like Feminist Fight Club and just sort of get helpful advice wherever I can get it. I've also gone ahead and created a chat room in the Feminism AF Amino that is about feminist books. So if you are so inclined and you have a feminist book or a few feminist books that you think other people should read, or just want to get some ideas of books that you would like to read in the future, you can go ahead and join the community, and I'll have a link to be able to do that in the description box below. Feminism AF is a closed community, so in order to join you do have to be invited, but the link below will just sort of let you bypass all of that. Thank you Amino Apps for sponsoring this video. I'm really super excited to jump into Feminist Fight Club. If any of you have read it, let me know your thoughts, especially if like that's something that is relevant to you, like was it helpful or not, because I'm really excited for it, especially the audiobook. The next book I want to read is not really in the same vein, like it's not about actually, okay, I'm just gonna say what it is. It is Women and Power by Mary Beard. Mary Beard wrote SPQR, which you might be familiar with. This is basically a very, very tiny book that looks at specifically the idea of women and power, and sort of how women who have achieved power are treated throughout history. And as it says on the cover, it is basically a manifesto about that topic. I'm especially really intrigued in this one because Mary Beard, like through SPQR and a lot of her work, focuses on classics and, you know, spanning back from like Homer's Odyssey to today. And so I think that that'll be really interesting to see how she discusses this topic, because she has such a background in that sort of historical world. I'm really, really intrigued for that. This isn't really related to Feminist Fight Club at all, but I think what it kind of relates to for me is that it is nonfiction, first of all, and also looks at women in power. Like, I think that's sort of like the idea behind Feminist Fight Club, is that you have women in the workplace achieving power and like trying to get more power in the workplace, and basically how to do that successfully in a world that is a patriarchy. And so really excited to read this one also along with Feminist Fight Club. Next is a book that I am so excited to finally bring back onto my TBR. I had forgotten about it because it was at the bottom of my spine bookshelf thing, which is basically like a big stack of books, and it was at the very bottom, and then I saw it one day and I was like, how have you not read this yet? And it is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. And this is about 3 girls who sort of go on this vigilante mission to get justice for a girl who was run out of town after accusing boys in her high school of rape. And it very much so, like some of you might know that The Female of the Species was one of my favorite books when I read it, still one of my favorite books of all time. And that is sort of like deals with a similar subject. The main character, it sort of like goes on like this Dexter style killing spree. I feel like this is sort of a trend in YA. Like there's definitely now this sort of like genre of books that's sort of like on this kind of subject. And I'm really excited and intrigued by that. And yeah, I just wanted to read, I basically want to read every single one of those books because they sound right up my alley and really important. And I'm really glad that teenagers are getting access to those kinds of stories. The next book is one that I also can't believe I haven't read yet, and that is Susan Dennard's Truthwitch. Now this is supposed to be, or what I've had it described to me is that it's sort of like Avatar or inspired by Avatar, which is like right up my alley. Love some elemental magic. But from my understanding, this really focuses on female friendship, and that's sort of like the heart of the story. And that is what really draws me to this, because I love female friendship so much. And I think that that's something that's so, so important in stories, in literature, in every form of literature, YA, literary, whatever. So really, really excited to see how that plays out in a YA fantasy story, because that is something that I feel like is really lacking in YA fantasy. I feel like so often those stories are sort of grounded in romance, especially heterosexual romance. And so I'm really excited to read a book that is about friendship, especially female friendship, because that's one of my favorite things on this planet. And we need more of it in the media. This next book is a bit of a spoiler for my next book haul, which by the way is going to be so big. I've got a lot of books recently, but this one is one I am so excited for. It was one of my most anticipated books of this year, so I was hyped when it arrived in the mail, and that is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. So based on the author note for this book, Justina Ireland was inspired to write this at first after watching or reading Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. She got to thinking about like what would actually happen during that time period, or during like really any time period if zombies were a thing and women had to fight. Would they actually like take up the sword, Or would people instead have other people, especially marginalized people, take up the sword for them? And so that is what this story sort of stemmed from. This book is a zombie book that takes place during the Civil War, and basically if you are Native or Black, you are forced to go into these schools that teach you combat in order to fight against the zombies for the white people. Jane is coming out of a school of both etiquette and combat where she is being trained to fight for the well-to-do, and I'm just really intrigued by this one. It sounds incredibly interesting. I've never read a book like this. It just, the premise alone just sounds so interesting, but also I think a lot of the issues that it's going to tackle is incredibly relevant to our own country and its current status. So I'm very excited to pick this book up. And then the last book will also be in my next book haul, but I just can't hold off reading it, and that is The Witches of New York by Amy McKay. And this is one that gave me major Diviners vibes when I picked it up. I actually picked this up at Blue Stockings bookstore here in New York City, which is a feminist themed bookstore. So all of the books have been curated by their staff of volunteers. It takes place in the 1800s and it follows women who have developed the power, various sort of witchy powers, and specifically it takes place in this tea shop, and this young girl ends up joining the tea shop to work there, and she sort of gets immersed in this world of women having these magical powers during a time when women are definitely not in power. So I'm really intrigued for that one. I think having that Blue Stocking stamp of approval on this really makes me even more excited to pick it up, and the cover also is just, I think, very cool. So yeah, this is my TBR for the month. I'm really excited to read all of these books. I feel like it's gonna be a really good reading month, and I'm very excited to have just lots of discussions with people based off of the books that I am going to be reading. And thank you once again to Amino Apps for sponsoring this video. Again, if you guys are interested in the Feminism AF community and you'd like to join without having to go through the whole approval process, I will have that information in the description box below, and I'll talk to y'all next time. Bye!